coordinator for the nonprofit graduate certificate program here at Do Good Institute. And my colleague, Meg Masterson, can go ahead and introduce herself next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Masterson. I also work with the Do Good Institute, and I'm going to be covering today some Giving Day practices that we've learned from hosting our own Giving Day. We're really thrilled to be working with Give 828 and sharing not only our tips for Giving Days, but as Takara mentioned, also some resources that we have as an office that can potentially help you both personally, professionally, and hopefully to your organization in the future. So with that, I can hop right into just by show of hands, or if you want to pop in the chat, how many of you have heard of the Do Good Institute, if at all? My guess is that not many of you. If you have, my communications is really working out. But if you have heard of the Do Good Institute, let us know. If not, Takara, you can head to the next slide. So the Do Good Institute is an office at the University of Maryland, and essentially we exist to connect students, whether undergraduate or graduate, to social impact opportunities or opportunities to get involved in the social impact sector. And so how do we do this? We do this in a number of different ways. We want to inspire students to make a positive social impact for the issues, ideas, and communities they care about. So whether they're an English major or if they're getting their PhD in chemistry, we want students to know that they can make an impact in their communities. And we work with a number of local organizations and foundations to connect students to, but also to work in our own community in College Park and the greater DMV area. We provide resources, financial and otherwise, for students, alum, and partners to apply their skills, knowledge, and passions. We also, like I said, build a community. So it's not just University of Maryland students, but people in the DMV area who are advocates, innovators, and change makers, ultimately with the idea that we can hopefully foster a culture of doing good, both at the University of Maryland and beyond. And so we'll talk a little bit about our programs later, but if you head to the next slide, Takara, our agenda for today, like I said, I'll be covering some best Giving Day practices, what we've found really, really successful, both for ourselves and our students. Then Takara will handle some Do Good resources. How can we help you beyond Giving Day? And then I'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions on how you might be able to get involved, how you might be able to learn more, take advantage of any of the resources or tips that we talk about. So how the golden question is, how might we maximize energy on Giving Day? And my team sits down every year. We have a Giving Day in March, and we ask ourselves this question. We ask ourselves, how can we get the most people excited, enthusiastic, engaged? Not just how can we raise the most money, but how can we build community and raise money at the same time and really make an impact for our organization? And so we have a longer fundraising 101 webinar led by myself and my colleague Sarah on our YouTube, and we can send that to you later. But here are a few of, I think, the best tips that we have for Giving Days specifically. And so to start us off, I start off every presentation or any sort of conversation about fundraising based on, these two tips. Is that one, we can never forget that people want to give. Most people like giving to people and causes that they care about or are passionate about. And number two, people give to people. And so this is a really simple way of saying, really upfront that most people want to help others. Most people are generally good, and they're looking for good causes to support, whether it's time, talent, dollars. Assume that the people that you're reaching out to for support, they're inclined to give if given the right opportunity. And it's actually, a bunch of studies have shown that most people don't give simply because they aren't asked. They don't know where to give. So don't be afraid to remember these two things as you start off your fundraising. And really honing in on that second point there, that people give to people, matching a face to a need, telling a story. People don't want to give to, things that they don't understand or don't know or don't feel a personal attachment to. So when you're fundraising for your cause or you're encouraging others to fundraise it for your cause, remember to keep it human, keep it person to person, and never to lose that sort of connection when you're fundraising. Because you can and you should sell the merits of your cause, but people will also give because of the relationship to you and the relationship of, people to people relationships. So that leads me to the next point, which is when you are asking, you've gotten over this idea that people will give to people and people actually want to give. Like I said, the number one reason people don't give is because they aren't asked. And sometimes they're not asked the right amount. So when you're thinking about fundraising, rather than just sending, oh, you can, give us anything. Fundraising is typically more successful when you're asking for a specific amount, either for a specific campaign, $20 will give a backpack to a new student, or $50 will provide an application for X. No matter what your cause is, giving a specific dollar amount is typically very, very helpful. It's something I call benchmark prices. So, for example, we use the stat at the Do Good Institute. $500 can help give coaching and support to a new student team. Think about those. And also think about, who is your audience? Is your audience mostly students? They won't necessarily be cutting $1,000 checks. Maybe you know very wealthy students that I don't. But in my experience fundraising with students, you typically will ask for a lower amount. But when you're going to maybe family or friends or larger donors or corporations that you might have partnerships with, you're asking for a higher amount. So doing some research and being able to tie specific numbers to exact causes or exact items that you might be fundraising for can be really helpful, because it's really important to justify why you're asking for a certain amount. And you should be laying out your goals for overarching fundraising campaigns, how showing people very clearly and transparently where their money will be going. So another thing to remember is that people give to support success, not to underwrite failure. The most successful fundraising campaigns are built off success, where people are saying, we do this really, really well. Our nonprofit exists because we are meeting this niche need. Typically, fundraising will fail when it seems like, oh my gosh, our nonprofit is going to fail if we don't get this $5,000. We're about to close, or we can't support people if we don't get this. These pleas for help that are almost like a survival ask typically aren't very successful. And it puts a lot of stress on you as a fundraiser when you're focusing on meeting margins that you feel you need to power forward. And so I think while that sometimes might be a reality, really focusing on success and telling the story of your success, not harping on failure or saying, you as a donor can save us, but saying, hey, join us in supporting this amazing cause. Join us in what we're successful in. And we really crush XYZ. And this is why we want your help. So avoiding guilt phrases too. So, I went to a conference and they're like, stop saying, don't buy a coffee today. And I always used to use that in fundraising. I would say, $5 can be here. And it was shocking to me that this guilt fundraising doesn't typically work as well. So thinking about that as you phrase your fundraising asks in your campaigns. I shouldn't say last, but one of the most important things that I think is part of especially giving days is enjoying your work and making place for fun in fundraising. And it sounds so corny, but really, especially when it comes to a day when you're revving up engagement, making sure that you're not getting so bogged down in the stress in meeting these specific numbers and that pressure, but taking time to have a lot of fun with it. Any successful fundraising campaign that I've ever run, whether it was in school or as a professional, they work best when it's fun and it trickles down from the top of the organization. So if you go to the next slide, Takara, here's a picture of our team on one of our giving days where we have yoga in the morning together. We have done, where you can see in the back, we have a whiteboard that was filled with funniest donor comments, or, best donors, most unexpected donors. If you want to keep track of those sorts of things, we would do silly competitions where every hour you would spin a wheel and it would say, Sarah calls this donor to say thank you. Or if your husband donates, then we're going to send him a text message saying thank you, or we'll send a personal note. And so fun looks different to every organization, and your organization best. But taking time, when I build out a fundraising campaign for our giving day, I'm building out our fundraising strategy to raise the money, but I'm also building out a strategy or run a show for our team. What sort of engagement are we going to have? How are we going to make it fun? Are there prizes? What are we competing for? Is there internal competition? Is there external competition with other offices? Really trying to rev up the idea that this should be a fun day. And when other people see people fundraising around them and everybody's getting really into it because it's fun, it typically is a lot more successful. And so you've had your fun day, you've had brilliant campaign messaging, you've said the right things, you've raised all the money. That is sometimes what I like to consider just the beginning. So you've reached the peak. Now what comes next? There's tons of follow-up. And that follow-up is so important as you build out your fundraising and your strategy long-term. So giving day is one day, but it might happen as if Give 28 does, it happens every year. How are you gonna retain these donors? How are you gonna stay in contact with them? So when we think about giving days, we also wanna think about saying thank you appropriately and promptly. And we also wanna think about what records are we keeping? It's so easy to reach the end of giving day and say, oh gosh, it's over. I did all the work. Thank goodness we raised so much money. We were so successful, without necessarily keeping great records, doing a follow-up, doing an after action report and saying, okay, here are the people that gave, here are the new donors, here are the donors that I think we might be able to get more from next year, or here are the donors that came back again. What did we do? How did we retain them? And really doing an audit and analysis of your success and your challenges. What can you learn from? And how can you keep in contact with these donors throughout the year? So it's not just they give once and then you never speak to them again, but maybe in 6 months, I just scheduled our giving day follow-up literally before I got on this call. What sort of follow-up are we giving? Hey, here's our year in review. You were part of this success. Hey, here's this student that you helped fund their literacy program or their education, and here's a thank you from them. How are we reaching out to our donors consistently throughout the years or throughout the year to follow up with them? And before I worked for the Do Good Institute, I trained peer-to-peer fundraisers at an organization called Kind. And the peer-to-peer fundraisers that were the most successful weren't necessarily the people with the biggest events or that raised the most money, but they were the people that built community with their donors and were very consistent in follow-up and keeping people updated on what they were doing. And so I think that this last bit, like I said, this is just a really quick tidbit in the bits and pieces of our larger fundraising 101 seminar, but some really helpful tools as you wrap up a giving day. I know it seems like we're ramping up now, but thinking about the after as well. And so those are really most of the tips. Quick, like I said, some quick little bites of tips that I have to just be thinking about as you go into giving day. But I'd like to transfer this over to Takara so you can learn more about the Do Good Institute and how we can help beyond giving day.
Yes, hi everyone. So I will be going over some resources that Do Good has to support you individually, as well as to support your organization's growth. Some support for your organization that we offer would be impact interns, scale your impact, and class grants for your organizational growth, and support for you as an individual and as a leader. We offer our graduate certificate program and our leadership exchange program, and I will go into more of those in the following slides. So our graduate certificate program, it's a nonprofit management and leadership. You can finish at your speed. There are 4 classes in total. All 4 classes are offered online on weeknights, and it allows professionals to advance their careers in the nonprofit sector without committing to the full rigor of a master's program. In this program, you can improve your skills. We offer courses that help our students gain knowledge and skills in several areas, such as nonprofit management and leadership, financial management, strategic planning, and of course, fundraising. A fun fact, our fundraising course is actually taught by Young Black and Giving Back's founder, Ebony Cooper-John, and it is designed to give students the skills to deploy fundraising strategies appropriately So if fundraising is something that you're really, really passionate about and really interested in, I definitely recommend enrolling in this course. We do have fall and spring start options. Our fall deadline has passed, but we are taking applications for spring. Our spring deadline will be December 19th. So please mark that on your calendar and keep that in mind. We do have scholarships available. Partial tuition scholarships are being awarded to new students on a rolling basis. Everyone who is admitted into the program is considered for a fellowship award. And you can also learn more about our program at our information sessions that take place every Wednesday at noon. And to register for one of those information sessions, you can go to the website linked in the slide, go.umd.edu/nonprofitcert. So please take note of that if you want to learn more about the program. Next, we have Impact Interns, which Meg is an expert at, so I'll hand the slide over to her.
Yeah, Carl handled all of the resources mostly, except I will hop in on this one. This is a program that was launched really in the wake of COVID-19, when we saw multiple students that were super talented and really impressive students, but had either lost internships because they couldn't travel to them, they were canceled, and just had a lack of opportunity there. And then we also saw our nonprofit partners who could really use the capacity and were working on projects in the wake of COVID-19 that they needed extra hands for. And so the idea of Impact Interns was born. And so we transformed what was previous our Philanthropy Fellows program, which was a year-long fellowship for graduate students. We made some shifts and we created and launched Impact Interns. And Impact Interns is a pipeline for impressive UMD graduate, undergraduate, and PhD students who are interested in being paired with social impact organizations. This could be nonprofits, corporate social responsibility with corporations, law firms working on civil, it's any sort of social impact organization. What we do is we have host organizations apply to be hosts. This summer, we have 28 host organizations with 34 impact interns across mostly the DMV area. You can apply to be a host, and we actually grant money so you can pay your interns. So we subsidize the cost of interns. We do require that all impact interns are paid at least $15 an hour. But for host organizations, if your organization wants to host an impact intern but can't necessarily afford to pay for the intern, we grant up to $2,500 per organization to take on the cost of the intern. And so the intern will work with you throughout the summer, anywhere from 10 to 14 weeks typically. And they work on any projects related to social impact. We have fundraising interns, we have communications interns, research interns, impact evaluation interns. It really depends. And alongside the impact internship with the organization, we also provide additional professional development throughout the semester. So all interns are paired with a mentor. All interns are invited to workshops throughout the summer on various different topics, such as salary negotiation or networking. And we also provide resources to edit their resume, things of that nature. So if you are interested in taking on an intern, it is a summer program. Please feel free to reach out to me, or I'm happy to take questions at the end, but that's a really quick synopsis of our Impact Interns program.
Thank you, Megan. Next, I will go into Scale Your Impact. This program is only for current students and alums of UMD, but we like to mention it in case any of you are alums or you're considering taking more classes here at the university. Scale Your Impact is a mentoring program where organizations that already have a proof of concept and completed pilots can get support from our expert advising network to scale their initiatives. It is a one-year program of support from December to December, and applications are rolling, but there is limited acceptance. In addition to mentorship, participants have access to a special pool of funds to support their scaling efforts, which is determined on a case-by-case basis. So yes, if you are interested in Scale Your Impact, please also mark that in your calendars to apply by December. Next, we have leadership exchange. Once a month, we have social leaders join us to share about their organization and their career journey in a 1-hour panel and Q&A session. Past speakers include Michael Smith of My Brother's Keeper and the Obama Foundation, Natalie Paquin of Points of Light, and Jennifer Chavez Rubio of the Gates Foundation. These events are open for anyone to join, learn, and network, so please look out for our upcoming list of speakers for the semester, which is coming soon. And lastly, our last resource are our class grants. Each year, the Do Good Institute supports a few undergraduate classes to incorporate Do Good elements into their curriculum. Each semester, there can be close to $5,000 awarded through class grants, usually ranging from $500 to $1,000. Do Good keeps a list of warm contacts for our students to reach out to for their grants. And if you get an email that has a class grant available in your focus area, definitely consider applying. It's usually a short 1 to 2 page application. They are student run, so they might need a bit of grace in the learning process, but it helps our students to apply, and it's a relatively easy grant to support your nonprofit work. So now that we're done with the presentation, we are hanging tight for more questions. So you guys are welcome to ask me and Megan questions right now, or if something pops into your head later, you can email us.
Yeah, we really zoomed through that pretty quickly. So I'd really encourage you all to ask questions on any programs that you might be interested in learning more about, or if you want to share with the group what you're doing for Giving Day that you think might be really helpful, tips that you might add on to what we've talked about, please do so. And I'm going to stop the recording so you don't have to worry about